know, it isn't always easy walking the path that I walk. When I go to graveyards, something comes back with me. Now, when I go to spiritual places of great pain, I consider graveyards spiritual places, but where a lot of pain is either resolved or pent up. There is a certain death energy that can follow you. A couple days ago, the day after I went to that cemetery where many slaves were buried and many people of color who were segregated up until desegregation were buried, it felt like I was walking through a thick fog of pain and sorrow. And I thought I had enough protection. I thought it wouldn't affect me because of my spiritual protection and practices. But the next day I had some back pain and now it's getting worse. And this is something that I've read about. This is something that attaches itself to you when you go to places where death energy is especially strong. You start to have some side effects. Now, every single person who deals with the dead understands that there are sacrifices to be made. Sometimes we are in pain. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the pain is an indication that something was brought back with us from that place. A death energy that planted itself in our bodies. Now, the physical pain isn't always the hardest part. Most of the time, it's not the hardest part. It's the death energy affecting your mind and your psyche. That's the harder part. Trying to work yourself back to a place to where you feel like you are at one with who you were, who you are, and what your purpose is, instead of feeling this very intimate sense of sorrow, of all-encompassing dread. You could say this psyche we find ourselves in sometimes is the dread lord psyche. The dreaded lord that comes forward in all of us when we have gone more towards death than life. The pain of being dead, a spirit, it can last for so many decades, so many centuries. And that part of the being of a person which is broken off and stays with the remains and stays with the place that they were buried, it doesn't dissipate immediately. And sometimes it takes many centuries or even thousands of years to dissipate, even as the soul moves on. So, what I'm really getting at here is that you don't get something for nothing. And sometimes the costs are seemingly unworth it, seemingly too high. And there have been times when I felt that dealing with the dead, the cost was too high, or the cost is too high. But the truth is, I'm not doing this because I expect everything to be sunshines and rainbows and all dandy in the end. Those of us who work with the dead and understand the path that we walk know that there are side effects, and that these side effects will expand into our lives even in the future. For the knowledge that we find, for the understanding that we renew every time we come to a graveyard and expand upon, there is there is something taken from us. A little bit of our life energy. One sorceress Cagliostro, I believe, said that you must write blood sigils upon your body and walk into a graveyard. And this is a woman saying this. And be ready to be raped energetically when it comes to how your energy is robbed from you. How your energy and the exchange between your life energy and the dead's energy is exchanged back and forth in order to bestow upon you a connection, you could say power, and knowledge. And I've gained much knowledge from the dead, but there is a sacrifice of energy. Do not imagine that there isn't. As someone who is not a necromancer or a blood sorcerer, as many who follow this path that I'm on classify themselves as, I will tell you that as someone who is very close to you and further away from them, do not follow this path. It isn't easy, it isn't fun, and you will end up with pains. You will end up with a robbing of energy from yourself because of the kind of energy the dead naturally have around them. I'm sitting on the floor because when I'm sitting on the floor, this means that I am depressed. I have a long history of being depressed and then sitting on the floor and listening to music, drinking, smoking, whatever. But I've been dragged down, and I'm trying to alleviate my pain. It's bad, and it's not even the physical pain that's the worst, it's the mental. It's what is drawn from up here. That's a sacrifice that is hard to part with. At any rate, be careful with your path. I'm trying to pull myself out of this depressed state that is the result of my actions. Do not let death energy rob you of something you're not willing to give, because that exchange will happen no matter how protected you are. So be careful, my brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for watching.